This is reality and revelation. No filter, just truth. What's really going on for me and you? Not here to condemn, we're here to unfold the story behind the story untold. Open your eyes, let the light break through. Reality and revelation made for you.
Welcome, everybody. We are at episode number 2 of the Reality and Revelation podcast. I am your host, Rick Peterson. And listen, I'm excited that you decided to come back up to the table a second time and get a second helping of what we're doing. Today's conversation is going to be one that everybody's going to relate to, because if you are like me, you know somebody that fits what we're going to talk about today. So I want to start the conversation with talking about a topic that you are probably tired of. And that topic is Cheyenne Bryant, not Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, because she refuses to provide any information to support the doctoral status. And as somebody who is in education and strives for a doctorate, I understand the work that comes along with that. So I am going to reserve that title for people who are actually willing to validate the fact that they've done the work to actually gain the credentialing. But I want to talk about Cheyenne Bryant for just a second, and I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective. Because I've been somebody that has kind of been consumed with this conversation simply because it's interesting to me. And the thing that is interesting to me is not who she is, not her looks, not the platforms that she's been on or any of that, not how she's fallen apart. But the thing that is interesting to me about Cheyenne Bryant is we all know a Cheyenne Bryant. Well, Rick, wait a minute. What are you talking about? I don't know somebody who has a doctorate or claims to have a doctorate. No. We all know a Cheyenne Bryant. Everybody watching this podcast, if you are watching and if you are listening, you can think of somebody that you know that is a Cheyenne Bryant. And when I say a Cheyenne Bryant, I'm talking about somebody who will die with a lie. Somebody who absolutely unequivocally, no matter what you put in front of them, will die with a lie. There are some of you ladies that are watching right now because you dated that guy who would die with a lie. No matter what, no matter how you caught him or no matter what was going on, he was shaggy, wasn't me. And no matter what it was, no matter if you had the text message, you could have even brought the other person into the room and he still would have denied that he was involved in something outside of the commitment that he had said to you. There are some of you that understand the Cheyenne Bryant aspect from your job, because your job has always told you you're the next one up for the promotion, or you're the next one that we're going to give this thing to. And no matter what happens, no matter how much you work to it, it seems like something always happens in that never comes to pass. Some of you know it from the church perspective, because you had that prophet or that apostle prophesy over your life what God was going to do for you. And they told you that God was going to give you the house, and God was going to give you the car, and God was going to do this, and you was going to be married in 6 months. And you believed it. And not only did they prophesy at you, they had you put a seed on it, because y'all know how we like to do in church. Sometimes they wanted you to put a seed on it. And for those of you who aren't in church, that means they wanted you to give to what they were saying. And 1 week turned into 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 3 weeks, that turned into months. And before you knew it, the thing that you had been told didn't come to pass. And you start to realize, when it comes to the Cheyenne Bryants of the world, that you are not unique. You are not the only person they are having this conversation with or about. Because when it comes to people who lie for no reason, you will find that they do it in every aspect of life. The clinical and historical medical terms for pathological liar is pseudologia fantastica. The other term is mythnomania. So pseudologia fantastica and mythnomania are the two terms that are clinically and historically medical terms for pathological liars. Pathological lying is not recognized as a standalone mental health diagnosis in major manuals such as DSM-5, but rather a behavioral symptom. And I want to talk about that for just a second, because when I told you that we all know a Cheyenne Bryant, we all know the person that lies for no reason. We all know the person who got all the girls in high school. All know the person who was the top athlete in their school, even though you cannot find any record of them ever being on the team. All know the person who got all the girls in high school, even though you were their first date. All know the person whose business is doing absolutely fantastic, even though their car is up for repossession. All know the person who is right there on the edge of doing something great, and somehow they never actually make it over the edge. We all know the person that has the grandiose story. They've been on the best vacation. They've gone to the best thing. They've eaten the best food. They've flown in the private jet. They've done some of the best things that you will ever experience. And ladies and gentlemen, they never have any documentation to support it. And for some of us, I want you to be clear that when it comes to pseudologia fantastica or mythnomania, it's not just the big lie, it's the little lie as well. Because you have that person that you know that is always going to call you back and never calls you back. That's somebody that's lying all the time for no reason. You have that person that you lent them some money and they always going to pay your money back the next payday, but next payday never comes around, and they've always got an excuse for why that can't happen. Those are the kind of people that we are talking about today, because we that are ethical and honest and truthful, we that actually have moral standards and fibers and values, we get driven nuts by these kind of people, because they're the people that get the attention. They're the people that command the room. They're the people that when they meet somebody new, they are charming and they are engaging and they are energetic and they are vibrant and they're like, oh my gosh, the room just gravitates to them because they have a personality and an aura that is unmatched. While you're the person who is actually telling the truth about everything that you're doing, you the person that is actually living the life that you are supposed to live, you the person that's actually not posting everything for the gram, or actually not living through social media, is actually wondering why nobody's as attracted to you as they are this person. Do you understand that liars sometimes are the best in their professions? Attorneys, politicians, doctors who tell you this medicine is going to be the best medicine, it's going to take care of everything you have, pastors, preachers. Some of the people that we listen to the most suffer from pseudologia fantastica or from mythnomania. They suffer from being somebody that makes a living, that has a platform, that has a stage, simply because they cannot stop lying. And you know somebody just like that. That person's already popped into your head. Matter of fact, there are some of you watching this podcast that multiple people have popped into your head, because you like, that person don't never tell the truth. Yet and still, when they walk into a room, when they open their mouths, when they are at a gathering, they are the person that everybody is sitting on the edge of their seat listening to, because they are fascinating. And it is that fascination that people have with them that fuels the mythnomania and the pseudologia fantastica. It is that rush, that vibe of being the center of attention, that is the thing that drives the behavior. Because like any fire, if you take the air out, the fire goes out on its own, which is why Cheyenne Bryant, when she had kind of faded out of the news cycle and wasn't as relevant in conversations, decided to jump on the Netflix trend of looking at different cameras to see what it was while the music played, with all of these pieces of paper, because I refuse to acknowledge some of them as degrees, all of these pieces of paper standing behind her as she put on a cap and gown that you can purchase from Amazon, just to get herself back in the conversation again. And that is why, in this environment, in a social media environment where everybody's posting their best life, everybody is posting the trip that they're taking, everybody is posting the car that they have, everybody is posting the home that they have, when realistically the home is in Airbnb, the car is rented, and the vacation are photos that they pulled down from pictures you can find on the internet. We are now dealing with a culture of people that get their high not off their accomplishments, but they get their high off the next lie they can tell. They get their lie off the next person they can get to believe they are who they are actually not. They get their high from telling a room full of people, whether it be in sales or whether it be on a date or whether it be in a forum just like I'm doing right now. They get their next high off telling you how great they are, when in all actuality, there is nothing below the surface. They are as shallow, as hollow, and as empty as any bottle that you've taken all the content out of. So let's talk about it for just a second, because this is something to me that is fascinating. Personality disorders that are linked with these types of people, this type of mindset, This type of mental detachment from reality are linked with narcissism, borderline personality disorder, antisocial. They're also linked with problems with the nervous system. So while everybody looks at Cheyenne Bryant and they think it's just a funny story, they think she's just out there chasing clout. They feel like she's out there posting thirst trap pictures because remember, when she fell out of the media, immediately she went to the bathing suit. I want you to understand the mental cognition deterioration that can be associated with someone who has these types of not just ideologies of grandeur, but is actually living out the fantasy that is playing in their head. And you might say to me, well, Rick, how is that important? Because it's not just with people who lie. People who have mental health issues don't just play this out on social media platforms. And they're not just sitting with Shannon Sharp and Cam Newton, but people who have these types of mental disorders that believe a reality that does not exist also go on to commit mass shootings. They also go on to do exactly what the gentleman at the In-N-Out Burger did over a couple of weeks ago when you're watching this, where he took out a firearm, killed 3 people, and injured hundreds or tens more because he was playing out something from early report that was in his head. So while we think it's cute and it's funny, and while we make fun of it and we laugh at the person that is constantly lying for no reason. Wow. We've dated the person that is there, and we always talk about you should have seen the red flags and you should have seen the signs. And girl, or well, boy, I don't know why you didn't see the red signs. I want you to understand that there are some people that believe it so strongly that they can even convince you. Want to say I'm wrong? Let's talk about some of the politicians whose platforms are against LGBTQIA plus members, but are also on Grinder and have been outed. Let's talk about some of the pastors who preach abstinence and want to make sure that you're living holy and living righteous. But there was a pastor that was in Virginia that was caught for over a year sending inappropriate photos to a 15-year-old boy in Pennsylvania. We can go on and on about the person that makes such a compelling presentation about who they are and their moral structure and their moral fiber and what they stand for and what they believe in, only really to find out that it's not really who they are past their ideology, past what they talk about, past what they are trying to convince you that they are for their own benefit. Because whether it's the politician, the pastor, the social media influencer, the business person, the lawyer, the doctor, whomever you may want to say, the thing that they all have in common is they all do this for their own benefit, which is what every liar does. They're doing it because they're trying to convince you that they are somebody you should trust, you should believe in, you should have faith in because they are an expert in whatever they are lying about, and they want to convince you that they can help you become a better person. Now, some of you are going to say, wait a minute, Rick, aren't you a pastor? I am. Absolutely. Well, wait a minute, Rick. Why are you attacking some of your own? I'm not attacking my own because the pastors that are divulged in that type of behavior are not pastors I would ever associate with because they're not pastors; they're predators. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole other podcast episode, which is why you should probably tune in to episode number 3. But the reality is, for people who deal with this, they are either pathological or compulsive with their lying, and they are so adept at it. They have embodied it so much. They have made it so much a part of their personality that they can recount these stories like they actually happened. And you know the person. You are thinking of the person that lies so much that they actually believe every word they're saying. Which is why for us, those of us that live in truth and are based in reality and don't live in a fairy tale land, we have to deal with the fallout of the person who suffers from the medical conditions I've talked about previously. Pathological liars and compulsive liars are things that make it harder for the rest of us who are actually trying to do the right thing. So the reality is the fact that now we are battling up a hill that we should never be on if the person who was living a lie hadn't built the hill that we are climbing. Because now, when somebody who is truthful goes to actually debunk what is being said, we are looked at as haters. We are looked at as people who are jealous. We are looked at as people who don't have our lives together. We are looked at as people that are the outsiders that wish they could be like those that are lying. And we have nothing to base our situations on except for facts. Facts that are sometimes irrefutable, facts that are sometimes unquestionable, facts that are sometimes unequivocal. But yet and still, facts and charisma don't always line up because there is nothing better than a good story. And not only is there nothing better than a good story, there is nothing better than a good story told by a good storyteller. And some of you have faced that storyteller that can spin an amazing story, which is why there are times in your life where you were made to look like the villain when you weren't. There were times when somebody said that you did something that you never did. There were times when people pinned things on you that had nothing to do with you. And while you were standing on the rooftop screaming at the fact that that wasn't me, they have convinced the entire world that you are the problem. Which is why when you've dated that individual that went back and had all of your friends convinced that you were the problem, or that boss at work that had convinced the higher ups that you were not productive, even though you were doing all the work and they were taking all the credit. There are many times in most of our lives that we run into this type of situation. And the reality is we get pushed down the peg for somebody that hasn't earned the things that they've acquired. And if we're honest, most of us, we feel overlooked, feel angry, we feel jealous, we feel resentful. And if you let those things set in to your mind, to your heart, to your spirit, you can find yourself so jaded that when the next opportunity presents itself, you will automatically cut it off because you have been burned in this situation but fast. Now we become judges of people and situations far too fast because we have told ourselves we are going to make sure this never happens to me again. And because we have told ourselves this is never going to happen to us again, now we have started to cut things off faster than we should have. We cut off people and situations faster than necessary because now where we once were trusting and believing, now we are protective of our space. You are trying to protect your peace. You are trying to make sure that you are not ever put in this situation again. You are trying to make sure that you are never taken advantage of. And the one thing that you don't realize here is the revelation that you are cutting yourself out from people, places, and spaces that you are actually supposed to be into. You are actually supposed to be a part of. This was the opportunity that you had been waiting on, but because it made you feel uncomfortable, you let that opportunity go by. You said, that's not for me. You said, I'll catch the next one. And here's the thing I want you to understand, that you are still allowing that liar's lies to control your life far after they're gone. That person has moved on to the next lie or the next scam, and you are the one picking up the pieces of what is left of your existence, trying to reframe and put them back together so that you can go on living, and you have not healed properly enough mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and in some cases spiritually, because the trust that you once had as people has been ripped away by somebody who lives a lie that is now impacting you. So here's the revelation. Rick, what do I do? How do I deal with what is going on? How do I adjudicate myself? How do I tell real from fake? How do I know what is honest and what is a lie? Because you've said that these liars are so good at their lie because they actually live them and they believe them and they can articulate them in such a way where they are convincing. How can I tell the real from the fake? I'll tell you, the number one thing you can do is use what I like to call discernment. You can start to ask God, lead me and guide me. We want to get biblical. The Bible says that he will lead you and guide you into all, ALL, truth and righteousness. So, number one, if you are somebody that is a spiritual individual, you can avoid the pathological liar. You can avoid the compulsive liar. You can avoid the person that has these clinical terms that we've talked about, mythnomania and pseudologia fantastica. You can avoid all of that simply by asking God to order your steps. Now, understand that asking God to order your steps is going to walk you out of some rooms that you want to be in. And I also want you to understand that asking God to order your steps is going to walk you into some rooms that you don't think you're supposed to be in. But if you are somebody who is faith based, you're going to have to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. You're going to have to acknowledge him in all your ways and allow him to direct your path. But if you are somebody that says, listen, all that church stuff, not for me. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get caught up in the hustle. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get conned. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not somebody that is on the wrong side of somebody else's delusions of grandeur. How do I, the non-faith based person, do what it is you're calling me to do? Number one, you're gonna have to learn to read people's body language, because the one thing that liars rely on is they rely on you listening to their words and not watching their actions. How can you tell me that you just came from the best vacation in the world when you eating ramen at the house? How can you tell me you just had the best experience ever when you riding on a donut on your car? How can you tell me that you have accomplished all of these degrees and have all of this education or all of this experience when you working at McDonald's? And while I'm not degrading any of those things, because I understand life happens to all of us, what I'm saying is there are going to be times where you are going to have to stop listening and start looking. You are going to have to be able to stop listening to what your ears can hear, and you're going to have to start believing what your eyes see, because the one thing that liars cannot stand is when you start to ask questions beyond the things that they can answer, because every liar remembers the large part of the lie. But the thing that they struggle with is details. Because when you have to tell the same lie over and over and over, there's a higher probability that you will not be consistent with the details. So, for those of you that are saying, I want to make sure I am not dating the next Cheyenne Bryant, for those of you that are saying, I want to make sure I am not buying a house from the next Cheyenne Bryant, those of you that are saying, I want to make sure that my next business opportunity is not with the next Cheyenne Bryant, for those of you that are saying, I want to make sure that the next church I go to is not pastored by a Cheyenne Bryant. I want to make sure that you are careful when it comes to your evaluation, not of what they say, but be critical and skeptic. Be critical and have a high evaluation IQ of what you see, because the one thing liars cannot manipulate is actual detail. While some of the pieces of paper that were behind Cheyenne Bryant when she did the Netflix trend said Dr. Bryant in all lowercase letters, or did not have a seal, or when people zoomed in and blew them up, people started to clown what they were because they were certificates of achievement, not diplomas or degrees. You better blow up the things that are in somebody's life and take a real hard look at what you see, because you will find that what you see can be the thing that can get you out of a situation you were never supposed to be in. So, as we close this segment, don't get caught up with the next Cheyenne Bryant. Make sure that you are listening, but make sure that you are fact checking everything you hear. Don't worry about what's on the Instagram reel. Don't worry about what's on somebody's timeline. Don't worry about what's in somebody's Facebook post. Don't worry about what's on somebody's Snapchat, because what I post is not who I am. Let me say that one more time for somebody in the back. What I post is not who I am. Who I am is more about why I post. So when you have somebody that is high moral character and high value, when you have somebody, because high value men was something that was in the conversation loop for quite a long time, When you have somebody that is high value, most high value people are humble. Most high value people are quiet. Most high value people are not braggadocious or arrogant. Most high value people are people that are more willing to help you than hurt you. So if you're wondering, is this person the next Cheyenne? Is this person the next person that is going to try to convince me of something that isn't really real? Ask yourself, what can I see that I cannot hear? And when you realize that for most people that suffer from methanomoma, you will find that when you start to look at what you see past Instagram, past Facebook, and you stop listening to what they say, it will be easy to determine that this person is just lost their mind. And when we pay more attention to what we can see, you can see the signs that the mental distress, that the mental disorder, that the delusion is there. Because if you go back and you research any mass shooter, you will find that when they interview his or her parents or people around them, they will tell you that they saw changes in pattern of behavior. They saw a mental shift in the individual, whether it was detachment or abandonment or food changes. They became obsessed with something where that was all they talked about. There were changes, there were signs, and the people around them chose to ignore the signs because they wanted to believe what the person was saying. Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the signs that this person is in a category that is all by themselves. Don't ignore the signs that this person cannot actually support what they're saying. Don't ignore the signs that this person doesn't have anything that they're talking about. Don't ignore the signs that this person is always about to do something, but it never actually happens. Don't ignore the signs for the person that always has an excuse. Because whether they're in business, whether they're in politics, whether they're in your personal life, whether they're in church, a liar is going to lie. And the truth is never going to be in them. And if the truth is not in them, I don't think you should be around them. Hey, we want to thank everybody listening. As we bring this episode to a close, I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page about how you can find me. I know that you have found me on Facebook, or you might have found me on YouTube, and I'm grateful for either one. But listen, I want you to like, I want you to subscribe, and I want you to share. Because this is not just for you. It's for everybody on your Facebook page. It is for everybody that you know that is on YouTube. Anybody that consumes podcasts, this is for them. So I want to make sure that you like, I want to make sure that you subscribe, and I want to make sure that you share so that somebody else can have the reality and become part of the Revelation family that we are doing. Also, I want to make sure, listen, none of this is possible without the executive producer and all of the great people that I get an opportunity to work with. So Lucas Live Media is the place where this is being shot at. If you are in the greater Stark County area, Summit County, Tusk County, Wayne County, Ashtabula County, and you need video, this is the place to do it. Lucas Live Media has got phenomenal studios. And I also, if you are somebody that is into media, whether you are a church, whether you've got a blog or whatever it might be, and you need video editing, listen, Footage Fusion is the place you want to reach out to. They are fantastic when it comes to video editing. They can do anything that you need. So we want to make sure that we shout out our sponsors, Lucas Live Media, and also Footage Fusion for the great work that they are doing producing this podcast. Listen, cannot wait for you to pull up to the next one. Now, I don't want you to get lost. Every other Tuesday is when we're going to be. So I want you to set your go live notification so that when I go live, you are live with me, because this only works when we all do it together. Listen, so you can find us every other Tuesday live, 6 p.m. here on Facebook and also on YouTube or wherever you find podcasts. And I want you to be a part of the conversation. If you are watching, listen, this is live, so you can chat with me along the way. We'll be making sure that we answer any questions or comments that you guys put in the chat, because I don't want this to be a monologue. I want it to be a conversation. And the only way it can be a conversation is if you jump in and make this conversation great. We are looking forward to having you back every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. I am excited that you are taking this journey with us. And let's make sure that the Reality and Revelation family grows so that we can bring more people to the table and we can have more more fun with conversations that we are all dealing with on a day in, day out basis. And now you got a place to share. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Can't wait to see you soon.